Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Card Fellas Shorties. Well, we've been talking about this for weeks, and here it is. It has arrived. It showed up on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter feeds. PSA is lowering its price for grading cards, and it's a cost that some people will kind of go, yes. $30 per card to get graded. The value service is back at PSA. However, Chris, there's always those little fine print caveats that we have to deal with. So it's not a free for all yet, but $30 graded cards are back at PSA.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking about that coming, and I think what's interesting is that we're almost down to the price that we were in March of 2021.
Yes.
When they raised the price, it didn't slow it down enough so that then they had shut it down in April. So we're almost back to that price. But I think market dynamics at that time were different too, just because values were through the roof and there wasn't all the things going on in the economy that are going on now. So it'll be interesting. I think that, I think people that are probably going to be most interested in what happens are the guys at SGC and at Beckett, because SGC has kind of been, a lot of people have been subbing with them lately because it's been more affordable and they've been turning the orders around quick. You talked about fine print. I guess probably the biggest fine print thing is that PSA is saying 4 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that is going to be kind of aggressive. I would guess that people are going to get back sooner, but I think they're going to be really careful not to say, we're going to turn this around in 90 days, right, and send it back in 6 months. I'm thinking they're looking at that as we can easily do that. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Yeah, and the other caveats, and we should list them off. First, you have to be a Collectors Club member, right? We knew that they were pushing that for something coming up. So if you want to have $30 per card grading come for you, you have to pay $99 for the year to become a Collectors Club member. So that's caveat number one. Caveat number two is if you want to get that $30 per card grading, you have to send in a minimum of 20 cards. So again, that's not exactly affordable to everyone. That means it's at least a minimum of $600 you're going to spend to get these cards graded. So right there's two costs that you're going to have to prepare for. The other thing is the max value on these cards per card is $499, which I'm fine with. I'm not going to really quibble over that. I think that's a fair number. The other thing that you mentioned was the turnaround time. They're talking about 120 days turnaround, and the one thing that they did say with a asterisk was these will be done after those value cards that have been sitting at PSA for over a year. So everybody, on the Facebook pages and Twitter and Instagram are like, what about my cards that have been there for 15, 16 months? Well, these will get pushed behind those and they'll work through those backlogs. But yeah, 4 to 6 months waiting for that. But and then one last caveat, everything that you submit for this $30 submission has to be from 1996 to present. So they're not going to go back past 1996. So no vintage, none of that stuff. None of the 1987 tops, Chris, that you have sitting around still. No 1990 Fleer basketball that we've been sitting on for all this time. So there are a lot of caveats that make me wonder, yeah, this is big news, but is there too many restrictions in place to really make this a monumental shift? And that's my question to you. Do you see this really changing the game that much?
Well, before I answer that question, I want to say this. I saw somebody on Instagram or maybe Facebook said this, and I think they're 100% right. They said, this is PSA making sure all those Prism football cards don't go to SGC.
Okay. Good. That's a great.
I think that's actually a really good point.
Yeah, let's if our viewers or listeners are not aware, the big Prism football boxes were just recent released. They're being opened, and those are the cards that people are showing off on social media right now. And that's a great theory. I hadn't heard that. I hadn't seen that. So
Yeah,
you think that's valid,
there's super smart people on Facebook and Instagram.
regardless of what you hear? All fives
No,
of them are smart. There's fives of smart people on Instagram and Facebook. But that's
but
actually a hot take that I hadn't heard of.
yeah,
That makes complete sense.
that makes a lot of sense to me. But I think that does it make a seismic shift? I don't think so, because I still think that just in our economy right now, and where card values are at, I think people will definitely. It does to me, and I said this to you in our text. I think it'll be interesting to see how SGC responds, because I
Yes.
think that's what this is. They saw Beckett get some headlines. They saw SGC has been really bringing in a lot of subs, and I think this bites into that. And the people that are complaining about their cards that have been there for a long time, the reality is they have to be almost through those by now, because I just got my order back about 2 weeks ago, and that was submitted right around March 1st. So they only took submissions for another 30 days after that. So
I
I'm
have
guessing,
I have two orders there. They haven't moved off grading.
yeah,
Now, usually what happens though is when PSA does an announcement, they usually start ripping through it really quickly. So I
yeah.
anticipate those that you're talking about being hopefully graded real soon.
Yeah, I would guess that just about everything that was there from February 2021 and earlier has got to be basically gone. So we're
100%.
just talking about that March, February 2021, and then the
Yes.
backlog's clear. So I would guess the end of the month for sure they'll be done. So
Yes.
they need to start loading up and getting cards ready to go, just because, like we've talked about before, they've invested a lot of money in infrastructure, they've invested a lot of money in new people, and they got to keep them working. So I honestly believe that, we were talking about this $30 thing happening towards the end of the summer. It's already here.
Yeah.
And does it make a seismic shift? I don't think it does for a lot of people. I'm going to say it's going to be lower by the end of the summer.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm okay with the 30 number right now. I think that's a fair price from where it's been. It still doesn't get me all that motivated to submit. I think the thing that I have the most problem with, or the biggest concern about, is the 20 minimum. Like, that's the thing that I think is kind of a deal breaker for me. I don't know if I want to go spend $600 on a single order at this time. That's my issue. Now, to your point, if I were opening a box of Prism and I got 3 really good cards and I wanted to send those in, I can send those in for under $100 if you don't have that minimum. And that's something I would definitely do.
Sure.
But that 20 card minimum really is kind of an hindrance to me. Like I said about the max value, I'm fine with that number. The wait time, that's just PSA. You have to learn to be patient when you're sending to PSA, period. So I'm not going to complain about that. But for me, that sticking point, or the thing that didn't really get me too excited, was that 20 card minimum. I just don't have 20 cards that I want to send in right now for $30.
I think you're in the same position with a lot of people, but let's actually talk about kind of how this story progressed on Monday evening, because we didn't see it on PSA at first.
No.
You sent me a screenshot of an Instagram post from our good friend over there, the Sports Card Investor page.
Right.
And he was touting a service that was saying we'll do PSA's submissions for $30.
Yes.
And you and I are both like, holy cow, like,
right.
What's going to happen here? PSA is going to have to do it. And I almost think that they put that post out there and PSA found out about it and they were planning on launching it, but maybe they were waiting till tomorrow or something. And this post happened and it forced their hand. And now it got put out there. But that thing that you sent me from whatever the service is was saying a 10 card minimum.
Yes. So it's actually, so the post, the PSA post came out on like, I think at like what, like 8 o'clock Central Time Monday night, and about an hour, 2 hours earlier, the sports card investor guy, aka Jeff Wilson, posted on his page, we are going to do a $30 submission, 10 card minimum, but the value, max value, is $299. You don't have to be a collectors club member, so there's some savings there. And so I peeled it back, peeled the onion back, and like, okay, how is he getting this deal? And then he partners with a company called gotbaseballcards.com. Now, apparently, they are big players in the sports card world, and they have been since 1991. Very reputable business. Seems like probably a bunch of collectors that have been in the hobby through the good days and now the flourishing days. And they were the ones that were offering the service. So, and they posted this like 10 hours ago. So they had posted this, and I don't follow them, so I didn't see it. So they had posted this around like noon or even before noon today. So they must have gotten wind, hey, we're going to be able to get PSA submissions for $30. So what they're doing is they're offering those $10 minimum for $30, but they're also offering a single card submission for $33. So there are some caveats to some of the rules that hobbyists and dealers are getting as well. So my recommendation is, if the 20 card minimum is too much for you, it's time to explore your local card shop. Like, you and I have a couple local card shops that we frequent. I went on their websites and I was looking, okay, what are some of their pricing? They haven't updated yet. Maybe they're in the process of them. They're obviously smaller mom and pop shops, so uploading or updating their websites and social media might take a couple days. But if you're looking to get something graded for that $30 and you don't want to spend the $600 to get that 20 minimum, and you're not a collectors club member, I think there's going to be ways for you to get a card graded for $30. You just might have to go a different route. And so that's what I'm looking at here is, these gotbaseballcards.com guys are offering this at a slightly higher price, $3 more, $33, but you don't have to have that minimum. But the card value has to be $299 or lower. So there's some weird stipulations here, and I'm just like, okay, what is all this? And then all of a sudden, PSA, released their information on Monday night, and the reason we're doing this, emergency shorty today. But my recommendation will be to hold tight and wait until you look at your local card shop and see if they're getting those same deals. Because, Chris, if one of our local card shops here is doing 30, I might pull a couple cards that I've been sitting on, and I'd send maybe 2 or 3 and spend $100 to get those cards graded if I felt like they had potential to be, in that range that made me some money. For sure, I think I would. But I'm still the sticking point for me, and I will continue to state, is that 20 card minimum.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of comments on social media tonight saying that same thing. We are not affiliated, nor are we sponsored by gotbaseballcards.com. But if they'd like to sponsor us, we're always listening. Matt enjoys free tacos.
I do. Yeah,
stuff, but
I like a lot of free stuff. Period.
Yeah, but as of right now, not endorsed or sponsored by them.
No.
Yeah,
that's good. That's a great thing. These are just things we see on the internet. We basically report on them. We're not making any money off them. We're not telling you to use them. We've never used them. I will not endorse them. But this is where we get our information in this day and age. And so
the other thing that I'll tell you, just from looking at their ad as well, I went to their website. With PSA, when you submit, your credit card does not get charged until the cards are graded. You do have to prepay if you went with their service.
Right.
I know you and I have subbed with our local card shops a few different times, and both times there we did not have to pay until the cards came back. So that's just something a good point to think about as well. But if you are trying to get around that 20 card minimum, that would probably be the way to do it. The other thing I'll say is that, I think that may change in the future as well. I think PSA is still kind of dipping their toes in the water, and they're just going to see how the market reacts. And if people throw a ton of cards at them at $30 a piece with a 20 card minimum, then that's probably where they'll stay. But if they do that and still don't get the volume that they need, expect to see some of those rules change as time goes on.
Yeah, I 100%, and I wrote that in my notes too. This is definitely a test, and we've seen with PSA they're testing. Whether it was the lottery system, whether it was become a collectors club member, now to this, we don't even know what they're going to do from 1995 on, like previous to the vintage. We don't know. They clearly cut this off at a certain year. So, do they charge less for that? They charge more for that? That's going to be something we're going to watch. So there's some interesting happenings there that will keep them in the news. But I think to your point, and to the point of the intelligent people on Facebook and Instagram, it is to take advantage of the upcoming football releases. I think that's really what they're trying to get ahead of. Is they don't want those cards to go to SGC. And right now, if you were to look at all of the grading companies, I believe that, that have credibility. I know there's some fringe ones, but right now, Beckett is the cheapest now at $25 per submission. If you want just graded card, no subgrades, because SGC is at 30, and now they're right there with PSA. So that's an interesting dynamic too. And you brought up this to me, and you've mentioned it here on this show as well. What does SGC do? And that's what I think a lot of people are going to be watching. And if they want to continue to make, I don't want to say make ground on PSA, but if they want to hold ground with where they are, they're going to have to make a move, and it's going to have to be pretty swift, and it's going to have to be pretty significant, in my opinion. They might have to go to 15.
Yeah, they'll know. I mean, it's such a strange business because they'll know within days how it affects their business. And if they're still getting the submissions that they need to get to keep their facility where it needs to be and their workers where they need to be, then there's no change. But if going to 30 from PSA takes those cards that would go to SGC and now shifts them back to PSA, maybe, then they have to react to it. But with PSA saying 4 months, it's June today. So if I'm pulling Prism cards and sending them to them, I'm going to get my Prism cards back probably in October. Yeah. Maybe that's when I want them back. But right now with SGC, you would have them for opening day for sure.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. I think that's that's something that collectors definitely want. They don't want those cards to be coming in late during the season. So you do have to watch that when it comes to that. But I think the timing, like you've mentioned, I think the timing is the perfect storm of getting those cards in and out. And I think they're going to really try and work hard to get them back before Labor Day, which is the start of the NFL season. So, PSA knows, and PSA has really done a remarkable job at PR. And ever since Nat Turner and his group has taken over, they've manufactured a lot of PR, positive PR, good buzz. And, this is kind of another good timing PR story that I think will, probably get more people to spend money with PSA, maybe ones that didn't plan on it. I'd sit here right now on, less than 24 hours after we've heard this news, and I'm like, I'm not ready to move on my cards. 48 hours from now, Chris, I could go look through my cards and go, yeah, I have 20 I'm going to send. And, just because I think part of it too, and I think I'm pretty normal in this regard. I've been sitting and anxiously waiting for PSA to move their prices down. And now that they have, I feel like there's going to be people who feel like they have to act. We're anxious, right? We're motivated. The problem is the economy is so different right now. And $600 is a hell of a lot more now than it was even a couple months ago. Right. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to be feeling that.
Yeah. And I think, that month I referred to, March of 2021, was when, PSA subs were $25. And at that time, that was what the lowest value is. So we're close to that. But that was basically right at peak value, too.
You were
Our
flipping.
cards that we were sending in at that point were worth a lot more than what they're seeing right now. Case in point, we've talked about that 1990 Fleer Jordan card. At that point, nines were like $250. And you can buy nines right now, the same card, for about $30.
Yeah.
So it's,
you're not sending that card in now.
You're not sending that card in today. Correct.
No, not ones that you think aren't going to be a 10. Like we were sending, you and I were sending those cards in, not for 20 or 25, but we were sending them in for 10, 12, 15, because we knew those nines, even eights, for crying out loud, were fetching $50, $60. So I just think, I'm it's going to be really interesting to see how this all shakes out. And, I'd love to hear from people. Yes, I'm submitting. This has changed my, this has changed my thinking, and where people are, because right now, if you look at the numbers, everybody's an even game right now. BGS 25, 30 if you want subgrades. So there's your 30 number. SGC 30, PSA 30. Everybody's straight across the board, So I still don't think, I don't see it moving the needle very much. That's just me, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe people are going to be motivated, and maybe more people are opening Prism Football than I know.
Yeah.
And, that might be the other thing. I know they're coming out with the retail blasters, which is going to flood, that's going to flood the market here. And a lot of people are going to be ripping cards that they want to get graded because they're the newest cards and they're the newest, brand with the players that they think are going to break out this next year. They're going to want those cards graded by PSA.
For sure. I think PSA looks and sees, what happened with the Wander Franco Topps card. The vast majority of those went to SGC because people were not going to send, other than right at the beginning, they were not going to send that card for $50. So SGC kind of got their foot in the door with that card. We just had Bowman come out, and I'm sure a bunch of cards went to SGC that probably would have gone to PSA had it been $30. And now with Prism, and especially with that rookie class that's in that 2021 product that's coming out in June of 2022. But that class, I think people still think is going to be an incredible class. And I think PSA wants those cards in PSA slabs.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent, hey, kudos to the people who figured that out, because that's really smart. And I think there's going to be more football like this coming out, right? I mean, there's going to be more unique brands coming out that PSA wants to capitalize on, and they know. And minus that Wander Franco card, there wasn't a whole lot of great products coming out in the past couple of months. So they weren't really missing out on a whole lot. And so I think that's, again, it's good PR. It's good marketing. Let's not rock the boat right now. Let's just keep the status quo, and, people can hold on to their cards. But I think now that shifts. But the question becomes, for guys like us, Chris, who have been sitting on cards since March of 2021, when, the prices went up and then they shut down, those cards aren't going to leave my collection, I don't think, for this.
I have a box on my shelf that says 4 grading, and it's got about 200 cards in it, but there's just no way at $30,
Right.
But I'm a cheapskate. I'm a cheap dude, so
well, you know what though, Chris? Hey, what was my philosophy a year and a half ago?
Send it.
Just send it, right? And so I was sending cards like, let's go, 150 order here, 150 there. I'm the same way you are, and it's more partly because of where the market is, where the economy. There's so many more dynamics at play, and we've touched on them, we've talked about them. But if I don't hit on some of those cards, I'm losing money. Right. And I can't afford to lose money right now, because all the other cards that I have listed or for sale aren't going for the prices that they once were. So I'm trying to recoup the money from the previous gradings that I've been doing. So it's all, I think it's all relative. And I think we've talked about it again on this show. You and I were at the front end of this. There are still people in that middle section that maybe got in and are probably still in over their heads.
Yeah.
They're sitting on product that they probably are going to lose money on. So they're not looking to go do this again.
Yeah. And honestly, there are people, if you really look at some of these posts, there are people that still are thinking like, I'm thinking about doing this. And it's like, boys, you're 2 years ahead or 2 years behind of this whole thing.
Yeah.
But the thing that I will tell you, and I've done in the last 9 months, you and I on this show, pretty much almost every episode we talk about slabs, we talk about PSA, especially when we do our set breakdowns. There's 20 minutes of that usually is pop reports and all that kind of stuff. But over the last 9 months, I've just gotten back into my collection and I've just enjoyed raw cards. And I think that's something that if people want to get into this whole hobby thing again and they don't have a ton of money to spend, raw cards are fun. I mean, I enjoy looking at them. I enjoy doing things with them. You don't have to slab cards to collect cards. It's definitely fun. It's definitely, especially with higher end stuff, makes it easier to sell, but you don't have to do it.
No, it's hobby. It's back, it's the purest form of the hobby, right? I mean, that's what we grew up with. For people who are getting back into the hobby from maybe their childhood. And, that's what we remember. Nobody was slabbing cards back in the, 80s and 90s. It wasn't a thing, And so I think that's the, to me, that's not only the fun approach. I think that's the right approach right now is go to your local hobby shops, go to your local card shows, go to eBay, find the cards you like, price them out, watch them, feel them out, see what are you willing to pay, and then target those cards. That's really and one of the things that you'll find out is once you go down that rabbit hole, you'll find a whole bunch of other cards that you'll then want. That's one of the things. You and I were talking about this the other day. It was like Ken Griffey Jr. like vintage cards, like not like the 85, but like like the 2016 throwback cards, and all of a sudden you throw that in eBay, and all these different variations come in, and you're like, I want that card, I want that card, I want that card, and so it's just that's kind of the right approach, and who knows, you could be sitting on those cards for 2, 3, 4 years. All of a sudden, PSA is wide open again. And now you get that card graded for $10, and you're back in the grading game if you want. But it's going to take some time and it's going to take some patience. There's definitely the get rich quick schemes. I think in the hobby are gone. They're gone.
Yeah,
and that's just
the reality. They're definitely in hiding.
They're definitely in hiding. And I think that's that's the other part of it too, right? I mean, there were a lot of people that were flipping blasters and mega boxes to people who were flipping those cards to get graded. And then they were flipping those cards on eBay for a large profit. So I think this is a good start. I don't think it moves the needle quite as far as we'd hoped, but any type of movement where the hobby is going in the direction we like, we'll take it.
For sure. Yeah, definitely getting more affordable. And, like I said, I think this is them dipping their toes in the water, seeing what's happening. So hope you guys enjoyed today's show. We were just, we saw this thing happening Monday night and said, we got to do a show. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you next time.